brothers, and when she's married to the father of the husband, right, becomes also one of her maharim. And the man, when he's married, then the mother of his wife is part of the woman also of his maharim. So this is all permissible mixing. And they don't have to wear hijab or anything. They can just wear the normal clothes that people would wear. Right? So this is no problem. This is not the subject that we're talking about. The second type is اختلاط النساء بالأجانب لغرض الفساد وهذا لا إشكال في تحريمه. The second type is when men and women, they mix together for evil actions, for sins. And this is something supposed to be, no doubt that this is haram. When people get together to commit sins, men and women, they get together in a place and they commit sins together. Anybody would have any doubt that this is haram? Of course this is something that is haram, where it's present in whether it's bars or parties or whatever it is. This is something that is definitely haram, no doubt. And anyone that has, as a Muslim, he would realize that this is something that is obviously haram. The third category, this is where some people, they have issues with, or they maybe not understand it well, is اختلاط النساء بالأجانب, the mixing between men and women, في دور العلم, in the places of seeking knowledge, not necessarily, well, knowledge of Islam or knowledge of other parts of knowledge, like schools, universities, masajid, to seek knowledge and lectures, any matters of knowledge, والحوانيت والمكاتب, stores, offices, hospitals, parties, and the like of this. And this is, as he says, in reality, the questioner might think in the beginning, there is no fitna, right, in these types of places, but this is what he needs to make the matter clear. And there are two levels here, and he will explain it in general and in details. Al-Mujmal, in general, to understand the wisdom behind things, because this is sometimes important, although it's enough for us to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He orders, we have nothing but to submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No question. Yesterday we were talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated him. Why he was elevated? Because of his submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing else. This level of submission that has no hesitation whatsoever. And the more the person is in that level of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to a human being, but to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is definitely what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created men and women. He says, created men, جبل الرجال على القوة والميل إلى النساء. He created men to have physical power, strength, and they have a desire towards women. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. وجبل النساء على الميل إلى الرجال مع وجود ضعف بان, which means, and He created the women to also have desire towards men, but with weakness. They have physical weakness. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. So you have the man and the woman, both of them, they have desire towards one another, but the man has power and strength physically, and the woman, she has weakness, physical weakness. فإذا حصل الاختلاط, once they are mixed together, نشأ عن ذلك آثار تؤدي إلى حصول الغرض السيء. Then eventually what will happen is the sinful acts and so on. Why? لأن النفوس أمارة بالسوء. Because the nufus, our being, always pushes us to do what is evil. والهوى يعمي ويصم, and the desire make you blind and deaf. When you desire something, you don't think, you don't see, you don't hear. You just follow your desire. Right? And this is how the hawa does. وَالشَّيْطَانِ يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. And the shaitan is ordered with matters of fahsha, sinful acts, and so on. So you have your own nafs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, this being of ours that is always pushing us to do what is evil. You have the hawa, the desire, make you blind and deaf, and you have the shaitan. Three enemies, they're all working for the same goal. And when a person have with this, the closeness or the mixing, we're not saying that once a person is mixed, all of these evil things will happen. No, but the shaitan takes people step after another. Right? And you see how societies, when they mixed with one another, what happens? Over 40% of the children born in this country out of wedlock. Abused, not simple abuse, major abuse. That they are born and raised without knowing their father. This is what level of abuse there is, talking about children's rights and everything. A child to be born and to live all of his life not knowing his father, right? Or not raised by a father. Orphan, basically, right? And then we will need to talk about the outcome or consequences of this in societies. And it's really something that people, when they did that research and they looked into these people when they grew up, they have major problems, major disturbances to their own personalities, but still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. The only thing that can change the person totally, make him a good person, is the deen of Islam. So if a person embraces Islam, even if he was like this, he can be the best person ever in his society. Why? Because this is the power of the deen of Islam that can change as a person. But in general, right, you have all these types of other things that would counter matters of righteousness as a result of this munkar or this evil thing. So this is in general, right? And then the mufassal, or in details, the shara of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this deen of Islam, is based on maqasid wa wasail. It's based on goals and means to achieve these goals. It's not just matters of rules, either there or some masail, and that's it. No, there is goals that the Sharia is supposed to establish with these rulings. And the ulama always, they talk about these maqasid. And you would find that the specific details of the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is one of the miraculous things of the deen of Islam, it's all in harmony, that it all serves these goals, right? Not something that is not connected with one another. And he says, وَوَسَائِلُ الْمَقْصُودِ الْمُوصِلَ إِلَيْهِ لَهَا حِكْمَةً. So the means to achieve the goals, right, it has also لَهَا حُكْمُهُ, which means it has the same rulings as the maqsood, meaning الوسائل لها نفس أحكام المقاصد. This is a principle in usul fiqh and matters of the deen, that the means, they have the same rulings as the goals. The Machiavelli principle is الغاية تبرر الوسيلة, the goal justify, or the end justify the means. This is a corrupted principle, of course. In the deen of Islam, your goal has to be righteous and sound and good, and your means to achieve the righteous and sound good has to be also righteous and sound and good, right? So if a person wants to build a masjid, which is a justified goal and it's a good thing, he should not go steal money of people to build a masjid. Well, his goal is good, but his means also has to be good. So this is a very important principle. Then he says, building on this principle, فَالنِّسَاءُ مَوَاضِعُ قَضَاءِ وَطْرِ الرِّجَالِ. Women are the places where the men, they fulfill their desires in the women. وقد سد الشارع الأبواب المفضية إلى تعلق كل فرد من أفراد النوعين بالآخر. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blocked all the ways that would lead to fulfilling these desires in a sinful way. And this is something you will find clear in the Quran and the Sunnah. Not to deprive the people from fulfilling the desires that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in them, but to fulfill it in the right way. And this is where people, if they have fairness and good nature that's still not corrupted, right? If the good nature in the human being is still not corrupted, and they have fairness, they will not like whatsoever for these evil acts to happen to their own wives, or their own mothers or daughters and so on. As the Prophet ﷺ mentioned this hadith many times, this man that came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him, he said, "Then leave it, give me permission to commit zina." The Prophet ﷺ, how he answered him? He answered him by making him fair, by making him think, and giving him the wisdom behind things. He said, "Atardahu li ummik, would you like this to happen to your mother?" He said no, because he has a sound nature. Any person with a sound nature, he would say no. Would you like this? And the Prophet ﷺ, then he told them, and the same thing, people don't like that for their mothers. Do you like this for your sister? He said no. He said, and the same thing, people don't like that for their sisters. And he kept counting one after another to establish the hujjah against him. And the same thing for one's wife. Does anybody would like for something like that to happen to his wife? A person with a sound nature, something like that to happen to his own wife, death is lesser of a calamity than something like that would happen if people have a sound nature, right? So what happened when people would commit, or they would find in the deen of Islam, the ruling is very difficult for people to be away from zina, that means what? That means that they would allow that for their own selves, which that means that either they're very evil then if they think this way, or they're not being fair. So then let's look into these evidences one after the other, and these evidences should be enough to those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And he brings interesting evidences, different than the direct ones. He says, the first one, in Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابَ وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَايَ إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. When Imra'atul Aziz, the wife of Al-Aziz, she tried to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam. And she closed the doors and she said, Hayta lak, here I am for you. And he said, Ma'ad Allah, I seek refuge in Allah, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathway. It was said, Rabbi here is the owner of the house, that he took care of me, how can I abuse him like this? Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Innahu la yuflihu dhalimun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make the dhalimun, they are never successful. What is the evidence here? ما هو وجه الدلالة في هذه الآية? What is the evidence in this ayah? He says, لما حصل اختلاط بين امرأة عزيز مصر وبين يوسف عليه السلام. When this mixing happened between Yusuf عليه السلام and امرأة العزيز and the wife of the Aziz, ظهر منها, and this is a very delicate point. He says, ظهر منها ما كان كامنا فطلبت منه أن يوافقها. Came out from her what was hidden in her as a result of the mixing. If there was no mixing that was inside of her, she has a disease in her heart. This disease would not be apparent unless this mixing happened. So when the mixing happened, came out from her, from the inside of her, from the disease in her heart, became apparent, and she asked him to, obey her. ولكن أدركه الله برحمته فعصمه منها, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him by His mercy and He protected him from her. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنْ إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted the dua of Yusuf, and the dua of Yusuf was what? رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهُنَّ وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. He said, "O Allah, a sijn, prison, is more beloved to me than what they are calling me to do. And if you don't turn away from me their plots, I will submit myself to them and I will be among the ignorant," because it's all the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he chose to be in prison than to fulfill his desire in haram, and that's why we recite the surah till the day of judgment. And this is such an amazing thing, and how many people can sustain such a fitna? And whoever says otherwise, then he is denying or opposing his own nature. So this is the first evidence, and you see how that what is inside of the human being, right, becomes apparent once you have this mixing. Right? So the mixing, we're talking about mixing here, we're not talking about anything else. So people, even if they're righteous, you mix men and women together, even if they are the most righteous people ever. You mix them together, every day they are together, they see each other, workplace, this or that. We're not saying that every single person has to fall into this, but this is something then people should not blame anyone but their own selves, because this is what human nature is. It's something that is, a shaitan works on this, and one's nafs is working on this. But why people, especially men, would understand that better, but why people would not do that for every single person, as a thing with those who are not righteous and they don't lower their gaze and so on. The reason why is that for a man, if he sees a woman that he likes her, he would take the means to go further. But if he doesn't like her, he won't take the means. Right? So this is a very obvious thing. All men like this, unless what prevent them is the deen or the fear of something. Right? Other than that, they don't care whether she's married or not married or whatever there is. As long if they are not righteous and they're not obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first evidence. The second one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the men بغض البصر, to lower their gaze. This is not a verse that means more than one thing, for example. This is a very direct, straightforward verse. وَأَمَرَ النِّسَاءَ بِذَلِكَ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered also the women. Two separate verses, one for men and one for women. So it's not just something that can be mentioned in general, very specific so that no ambiguity in it whatsoever. كل المؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم ذلك أزكى لهم. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to the believers. Only the believers will do that because the matter, yes, it's difficult. And they need iman for them to lower their gaze. To lower their gaze and to protect their private parts, this is more purifying to them. Inna Allah khabirun bima yasna'un. Allah is the all-knower of what they do. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. And say to the believing women to lower their gaze, and the ayah comes after that with the hijab and so on, and the maharim and so on. So what is the dalala here? What is the evidence in these two ayat that it comes to mixing and intermingling? He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the believing men and women to lower their gaze. And this amr, this order, يقتضي الوجوب. It's not a mustahab thing, it's not something recommended. This is wajib, this is mandatory. And then he subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear that this is azka wa athhar. It's more pure for them and more purifying to their souls and so on. وَلَمْ يَعْفُ الشَّارِعْ إِلَّا عَنْ نَظَرِ الْفُجَاءِ. The only permissible look is this, the faj'a is the first glance that the person has no will in it. Not the first glance that he has a will. He knows that somebody coming this side, so he would make a first glance. No, he has a will here. It's the thing that comes without his will. All of a sudden he saw something, right? This first glance, there's no sin here. Not because that the first glance is permissible, it's because he has no means, that no will whatsoever. It's over his power. And the first glance is not that he would keep on looking, and this is considered to be the first glance. No, the first glance, right? And not the first look. And this is as the hadith in Al-Hakim and others from Ali radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ya Ali, la tutbi' al-nadhrata al-nadhra, فَإِنَّمَا لَكَ الْأُولَى وَلَيْسَتْ لَكَ الْأَخِرَةِ. O Ali, he's talking, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is talking to who? To Ali radiallahu anhu, right? The most pure individuals on earth after the Prophets, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is ordering them, as he said, do not follow your look with another look, a glance with another glance, because the first is for you, because you have no power to avoid it, but not the latter one. It's not for you, it's against you. And if this is to the purest men after the messengers of Allah, who can claim afterwards that it doesn't affect him in a harm way? He is not affected. Looking at women or women look at men, there's no harm. I mean, you people are always thinking of evil things, and this is how they say, right? This is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the order of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Ali radiallahu anhu, and to the Sahaba, and to the Ummah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And why would a person, yes, it's true that a person might look at women, or women look at men, and they don't find anything physically in them changed, right? There's nothing, they don't feel anything. Why? Because the hearts are contaminated. Doesn't make any difference if they see anything more. If a person has never seen anything in his life for 10 years, right? If he sees what he sees, he's not going to say the same thing, right? Why? Because he is, the matter is because the person sees so much, the heart becoming contaminated. Like some people, those who came from overseas, I personally remember this, and you probably remember the same thing. You come from I don't know if the word conservative is considered to be a right word, but from societies where you don't find this too much of, people taking their clothes off and having intimate moments in the streets or things like this. So you come the first shock in the airport, right? And you get shocked. You cannot believe that people would do this in the streets, right? And then the first day you're shocked, and I remember I want to go back. This is too much. And then the next day it's still shock. After a week the shock becomes weaker. After a month, after 2 months, it becomes a normal thing. And this is a good sign? No, this is an evil sign. That means the heart has been corrupted. So this is basically what it means. And this authentic hadith of Ali radiallahu anhu, and also other hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, العينان زناهما النظر والأذنان زناهما الاستماع واللسان زناه الكلام واليد زناها البطش والرجل زناها الخطأ متفق عليه. This hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, and this is the statement of Muslim rahimahullah, that the Prophet ﷺ said that the two eyes, their eyes, the zina of the eye, the zina, and the Prophet ﷺ called it fornication. Zina is to look, the glance, and the zina of the ears is to listen, and the zina of the tongue to talk, and the zina of the hands to touch, and the zina of the leg to walk. And then it says وإنما كان زنا لأنه تمتع بالنظر إلى محاسن المرأة ومؤدٍ إلى دخولها في قلب نظرها. Why the Prophet ﷺ called it zina? Because when a person sees and looks, he would have a joy as a result of this glance and this look, and that would make that enter his heart, right? And his heart will be attached to what he sees. And then if he has the means, he will take the means to fulfill his desires. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade him from looking at her and she's looking at him, which leads to what is evil and what is sinful, which is basically what mixing would do. So that's why mixing is the means for people to look at each other, and as a result of that they would fall into what is haram. So imagine people are mixing with each other and they never look at each other. This is something that is almost impossible to have. And again, a person might say, well, people walking in the streets, that's a different situation. You're not sitting with people in the same spot, dealing with them and talking with them. Women at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they would buy and said, yes, this is not the mixing that is meant here. Right? These are not people that are sitting together. If they are working together in the store, this is mixing. But if it's a matter of transaction, something quick with the proper etiquettes and so on, and if it's needed, people walking in the street, there's no harm in this as long as they're observing. That's why hijab is mandatory for women, and men in the streets are to lower their gaze too. Lower their gaze from those who are not wearing hijab, and lower their gaze from those who are wearing hijab. And one of the amazing things is some of the Muslims would lower their gaze when they talk to a sister with hijab, and don't lower the gaze when they're talking with a sister or a woman without hijab. Right? It doesn't make sense, right? But this is basically, they do that out of respect, right? But it's supposed to be both ways. You're supposed to be witnessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-seer. And the same thing, many of the women, you find the man lowering his gaze and she's not lowering her gaze, right? And they think that it's an okay thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not saying that if you lower your gaze, that means this person in front of you cannot resist yourself whatsoever. No, this is the order of Allah. You just have to lower your gaze, that's it. You're not making a statement or anything that this person is affecting you in such a way that you have to lower your gaze. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered men to lower their gaze and ordered the women to lower their gaze. Whether people would find this as rude or not, it doesn't matter. We're supposed to be the women in a man's life as a Muslim is maharim only. These are the only women in his life. He does not know anyone else. Does not know anyone else whatsoever. This is the ideal situation, right? And what does it matter whether they are kind or not kind, or rude or not rude? There's no relationship to start with. This comes when there's a relationship. It doesn't mean when you're in the store, for example, buying something, you're supposed to be being harsh and so on. No, you smile and you say all kinds of nice things when you're buying and selling, but you're lowering your gaze and you're not seeing anything, and people need to witness that. You would say that the non-Muslims will see that you're weird and strange. It's okay, it's a good da'wah. They need to see that, and they would ask questions. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade us of something, that means you know for sure that this is the right nature of the human being, but it's been polluted so much by the environment that they're in. And if they have a moment of truth with their own selves, really that would come out from them, that they know that this is the true thing, right? Any woman that is married, and she cares about her husband, she would love that her husband would lower his gaze, right? Ask any woman that she cares about her husband, right? Not a woman that she, is not caring too much about her husband. She would appreciate so much of her husband, would lower his gaze. You tell her that your husband's supposed to be, the only woman that he looks at her whatsoever is you. How happy she would be, right? And how jealous she gets when her husband, they're next to each other and he's looking at women left and right. This is so, besides matters of the religion, this is haram, of course, and this is how disrespectful it is, and how this is a matter of cheating. Is cheating only to commit zina? No. Cheating also is for the men, and men, people do not expose what's in their hearts. right? They see things and they watch things and they do all kinds of things. And these poor women, they think that their man is so loyal and faithful to them. And they have no idea that this nafs is such an amazing thing. So the matter is, people can say all kinds of words, but the truth is from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the second evidence here is with regards to lowering the gaze, which is clearly something that if people are mixed, then how would they do that? The third evidence, he says, الأدلة التي سبقت في أن المرأة عورة ويجب عليها التستر في جميع بدنها. The adilla, the evidences that proves that women, as the Prophet ﷺ said, المرأة عورة, women are عورة, means to be covered and to cover all of her body. And if she exposed any of that, then people would see her. And looking at her would lead to the hearts to be attached, and then not everybody will take the means to fulfill his desires, but some people might and some people not. But again, lowering the gaze is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all of that is because of the mixing or the intermingling. Number 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَ بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ لِيُعْلَمَ مَا يُخْفِينَ مِنْ زِينَتِهِنْ, which means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade the women from having with what they wear in the shin, in the legs, the golden, what do they call it in English, I'm not sure, like a bracelet but in the leg, right? This is some environments they do that. Anklet, right? And it would make noise when they walk and so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade them of that so that it does not attract the attention of men. Why? Because if the men, if they hear this, right, this can make things in their hearts, and this also happens when there is mixing, right? So this is also mentioned in the Quran. The fifth evidence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala know خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ. خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ, al-khiyana is when a person betrays someone, right? So what is the betrayal of the eyes? Is when you steal a look. You're betraying someone by stealing a look. You're looking in such a way that nobody would, you make sure that nobody sees you stealing that look, right? وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ, and what's hidden in the sudur, in the chest. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said it very bluntly and directly, right? And this is really what's in the hearts of men or those who have diseases in the hearts and so on. He says, هو الرجل يدخل على أهل البيت بيته. The man would enter the house of some people. And among them, ومنهم المرأة الحسناء, a beautiful woman inside the house. وتمر به, and she passes by. فإذا غفلوا لحظها. If they are busy, he would glance at her, right, in a way that they don't see him. فإذا فطنوا غض بصره عنه. And when they're paying attention to him, he's, mashallah, very pious and looking down. That's Ibn Abbas is saying that. And this is this is an obvious thing. He says, فَإِذَا غَفَلُوا لَحَظ. If they are busy, he would try to look, steal a look. And فَإِذَا فَطِنُوا غَضَّ, and when they are paying attention, he would make غض البصر, and he would lower his gaze. وَقَدْ اطَّلَعَ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ قَلْبِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in his heart. And this is where the tough words here. أنه لو اطلع على فرجه أنه لو قدر عليها فزنا بها. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows in his heart that he would want to see her private parts, and he would want to commit zina with her, right? And he's acting all polite in the house of these people. And the evidence here is clearly خائنة الأعين, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned here that this is a steal of the eye, right? And this is also happens when people are mixing with one another. And people can easily pretend to be whatever they want to be, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in the hearts and knows what the steal of their eyes and so on. And that's why we as Muslims, our homes has to be different than others. Women, if they wear hijab outside, they are observing hijab at home too. How is that? When hijab is not a piece of cloth, right? Al-hijab is a state that the woman is in. And that state means she's away from the eyes of strangers. So if she is at home, right, and the windows are covered and everything, right, nobody can see her from the strangers, she's observing hijab even if she is with her husband in an intimate moment, right? She's observing hijab. Why? Because she's away from the eyes of strangers. She is still in the state of hijab. You understand? And that's why when she goes out, right, then she would put the clothes on that would make her in the same state as she was inside of the house with her husband. Away from the strangers. Not that she goes outside and she becomes valid or available for all the strangers. You see what I'm saying? So that's why the hijab is not covering the head, it's not a piece of cloth. It's a state. That means that's why the conditions of the hijab, when the ulama they mention it, right? It's to make the woman as she was at home, away from the eyes of strangers. She goes out to be away from the eyes of strangers. That's why it's not supposed to be transparent. It's not supposed to fit or shape the body. Right? It has to be big and not to shape the body, and not to be zina or adornment in itself, right? And to cover the body and so on. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. So our homes has to be different, and that's why when people are invited, the men are alone and the women are alone, unless they are mahram. The brother of your wife come, he's not supposed to, he can sit with your wife, he's her brother, right? And things like that. But they are strangers, then they are not to be mixed whatsoever, right? And this is something that should never be compromised whatsoever, and it's not an attack to one's honor and dignity. It's not accusation of any form or sort. That people will do that, that means, or you're accusing me that I would steal a look and I would be evil and so on. No, this is the way that we live our life. Because whoever denies that he has a desire in his heart, he is really not being or saying the truth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And it's not saying that we're accusing anyone, but this is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 6 is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the women, to the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to the Muslim women in general, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى. وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ, which means stay in your homes and do not adorn yourself like the ways of the early or the first Jahiliyyah. The Jahiliyyah al-Ula, what is the tabarruj? As it's mentioned in some of the statements of the companions of the anhum, they would show their neck and the V-neck, when they wear something. And this is the tabarruj that they used to do. And you can imagine what is happening nowadays. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-tahirat, al-mutahharat, al-tayyibat, li-luzumi biyutihin. Ordered the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the purest women, the most virtuous women, to stay at their homes. And this is all not just to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, but to all the Muslim women. That her place, her original place, is her home. It doesn't mean that it's haram for her to go outside of the home, but this means that this is her original place. This is where she normally is. If there's no need for anything, she's at home. And that means if she has to go out, then she goes out. But her place is at home. There's no such a thing as a woman working outside unless it's an exception. There's an exception. There's a need for her to work outside, and this need has to be, each case is to be assessed individually, right? But her original place, the norm of the Muslim women, they stay home. And those who would work outside of the home are the men. And those who would work, and they work even harder than those who would work outside, are the women, because the work of the women is even harder. But they work with their loved ones, which is different than the men when they go outside and they have to fight this world and protecting the religion. And the more the man is righteous, the more the woman will appreciate what her husband do. It's not about money and shelter and that's it. People sometimes when they read the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the rights of the wife and the husband and the wife, and they see the hadith of how that the right of husband is such a great right, it's because he protects her religion. Because when she's staying home, she's away from sins. He has to be the one goes and intermingle with people and deal with people, and he might earn haram or he might fall into haram, and because of that he is more subjected to the hellfire than she is. Why? Because she's safe at her home, and her work is with the ones that she loves, whether it's her children or her husband and so on. So this is the original place, and this is something that we need to revive again. And as we said before, how are we raising our girls? We're raising our girls to be career women, because they go to school from kindergarten to PhD. So what do you expect after that? She's going to stay home after she got her PhD? There's no way. There is no way. She has to have a very strong iman, right, for her to do that. Does it mean that we're not we're supposed to educate women. Education is something else. She doesn't have to go outside to be educated. She can have homeschooling. Inshallah, homeschooling in this country, right, is much, much better than the school system. And this is the trend now. And those people, those who are wise and they have, means of good things, they're taking their kids away from the public school to homeschool them. And they are the best now when it comes to acceptance in colleges even. They are accepted in the best colleges in the country, those who are homeschooled. Schools, and also honestly, Islamic schools should be exception. If you don't have the means to homeschool your children, send them to the Islamic schools. If you don't have the means. But you have the means to homeschool them and you don't, in this country, Allah knows best. This is an option that should be, people sometimes they hear homeschooling, they think this is a backwardness thing. No, actually, research the matter and see how homeschooling it becomes now, much, much better than anything else. And the rates and the level of the students, those who are homeschooled, are much higher academically than those who go to public schools or go to schools even Islamic schools, right? And things of that nature. But the point is, when you have an environment only for girls to study the deen and otherwise, like say you have boys' schools and girls' schools, there's nothing wrong. Okay, you have girls' schools, right? The teaching will be different, right? But when you have boys and girls, even if you have, like we have here, separation in between, the teacher is talking to both of them. That means what? Even if they're totally separated, but it's the same teacher talking of both at the same time. What are the values that were being passing on to them? That you need to compete with one another to see who would be fit in the work environment. Or you're going to stop and talk to them about something special for them. Where is this upbringing for Muslim women to be mothers and to take care of their homes and to be the best educated, right? We're not talking about education here. She would get the highest levels of education to benefit her children and to benefit her husband and benefit her community if it's needed with the right environment. And these also are exceptions. Not every single Muslim woman, she thinks that she's the exception. Because they say, where are the Muslim women gynecologists? Where is the Muslim teachers, Muslim women teachers, things of that nature. The whole Muslim woman, they have to be all gynecologists and all of them become teachers. Of course, this is how many you would need for the community, sure, right? And there are people already competing with this. But to make this as the norm, no. So we're talking about the norm. The norm is that, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us in the Quran. 21st century, 17th century, this country, that country, we have the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the best way of life. And as those who are, this is the real happiness of this life. But this, to follow what people want from you, so that you look good in front of them, so that when they go home they talk about you in a very nice way, who cares? When they talk about you behind your back that you are such a modern person, do you receive any happiness from them through the satellite or something like that? At the end, you're the one that is stuck at home with whatever this corruption of upbringing that we have, because we're away from raising our children and our families according to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is the real happiness, really, when people would each get to know the roles in this life. The role of women and the role of men and so on. The person would say, well, Khadija radiallahu anha, she used to have trade. And so, yes, there's nothing wrong with it, right? We're not saying that this is, a woman, she has her own financial independency. She does not depend on men. She does not take even the name of her husband, right? She has money, she can invest her money and she can make money. She can make things and sell it. The wife of the Prophet ﷺ, Zainab radiallahu anha, she used to sew things and sell it and to give it in charity because she does not have any financial responsibilities. This is absolutely fine, right? But things to be away from intermingling with men and to compete with them and so on. So وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ, and if this is the order to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ and to the rest of the women, right? As he says, أَمَّا تَقَرَّ فِي عِلْمِ الْأُصُولِ أَنَّ خِطَابِ الْمُوَاجَهَةِ يَعُمْ إِلَّا مَا دَلَّ الدَّلِيلُ عَلَى التَّخْصِيصِ. If there is a speech, there is addressed to someone, it's for everyone. Unless there's an evidence that this is specially for this. So it's not just for the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. As some say, open any book of tafsir. This is consensus among the ulama that this is for all women and not just for the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, because in the same ayah it says, وَأَقِمْنَا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتِينَا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِعْنَا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. establish the salah, pay the zakat, obey Allah and His Messenger. This is only for the wives of the Prophet ﷺ? Of course not. So if they were ordered to stay at home and this is the original place, unless there's a need for them to go out, so there's a reason for them to go out, then how would be then the ruling of intermingling or mixing in this case? As he says, على أنه كثر في هذا الزمان طغيان النساء وخلعهن جلباب الحياء واستهتارهن بالتبرج والسفور عند الرجال الأجانب. You know, at his time he's saying, you know, the women had transgressed and they took the shyness jilbab away, no shyness anymore, and they adorn themselves and they show themselves to the men and their husbands. They lost this ghayra and this, you know, the proper ghayra, and I don't want to say jealousy, it's ghayra, right? It's the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in those who are having the sound nature of men, that he would not accept whatsoever his wife to be with another man. What is this feeling that a person would get if he sees his wife with another man? This is called ghayra, right? So the ghayra is not when that will happen. The ghayra is when they're also mixed. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, when he addressed the people one time in Al-Kufa, and he said, what's the matter with you? You're leaving your women, يزاحمن العلوج في الأسواق. You're leaving your women to intermingling with the العلوج, the disbelievers in the markets. You crazy people, right? You're leaving your women like this to be to go out in the market and mixing with these men and so on. From the sunnah there are many.